Hello everyone, Jules here. Today I'd like to show quite an interesting tarot deck, which is the Da Vinci Enigma Tarot. And this was created by Caitlin Matthews. This is the relatively new Schiffer edition. This was published, I think, last year. And the first edition was published in 2005 by Edison Publishing. So this edition is really not a totally new edition. The box is different and the cards are better quality than the first 2005 edition by Edison Publishing. So the book has not been changed and the cards have not been changed, but they are better quality than the original in 2005. And the book is just as interesting as it was before because it hasn't been changed. This box is different. The Edison Publishing box had the Mona Lisa picture on the box, and this one has the self-portrait of Leonardo on here. So this is the box, and it's a cardboard box without a metallic clasp. So it's really the type of cardboard box that the 2005 edition was in, but it just has the different picture on the front of the box, having the self-portrait of Leonardo on here instead of the Mona Lisa picture. So this is published by Schiffer under their red feather imprint. And here is the book by Caitlin Matthews. And it doesn't look all that thick, but it's very well written and there is a lot of information in here. There's a good introduction in here about Leonardo da Vinci, and for each of the cards there's 2 pages of information, and there's lots of spreads in the back of the book. There's about 9 spreads for this deck. So for each card, excuse me, for each card there is a background about the drawings or the paintings, images of the cards. So it's a background information about the image. There is upright and reversed meanings, and there is also a type of question for each of the cards. So you have the title of the card and you will have a question below the title of the card, which is really useful and interesting. And there is also a title for the actual drawing or picture. So that helps a lot too, because that helps with the context of the image. And the major arcana is called the macrocosm and the minor arcana is called the microcosm. And there are 2 pages for each of the major arcana cards, and there is 1 page for each of the minor arcana. So I think that's the main thing I wanted to say. With the major arcana cards, just about all of the titles of the major arcana cards have been changed, except for Fool and Magician, and the Empress and Emperor, and Hierophant. I would say about 2/3 or possibly half of the titles of the major arcana cards have been changed. They are different. But this is a really good book. You really do need the guidebook for this deck. It is 144 pages, but it is, like I said, it's really well written and the information is really useful for this deck. So I really like the book. So there's the book. Now for the cards. These cards are better quality than the Edison Publishing 2005 version. So these are better quality. They have a light lamination, but they're really semi-matte. And there's 2 extra cards. This is the back of the cards, and the cards also join up to make geometrical, platonic, solid images on the back. So that's the back of the cards, and the cardstock's really good. So this is one of the extra cards. So it has a pattern that is geometric, but Caitlin Matthews refers to this as a kind of labyrinth. So this is for referral. These are reference cards. They're not used for divination. They're just reference to the deck. So there's that card. And there's also this card, which it represents the laying out of each of the cards and how they relate to one another. This is according to Caitlin Matthews' system with this deck. So this is her idea of how the cards relate to each other, sort of by default. So this is another reference card that you don't have to use these reference cards if you don't want to. So now to look at the cards, the images on the cards. I'm just showing some of the cards today. So it's an 80 card deck with the 2 reference cards. So the first card is the Magician, which is Leonardo, self-portrait on the box. And these Major Arcana cards have Roman numerals on them and the title. So this is Magician. Some of these are paintings and some of these are sketches of Leonardo's. Okay, so this is 2 Enigma, which is the Mona Lisa painting. So this would normally be the priestess or high priestess. So this is Enigma. Empress. Now this card is twins instead of the Lover's card. So this is number 6 and it is twins. It's a very interesting deck and it's quite different. It really has a system of its own. The structure is tarot, but it really has its own system, especially with the meanings for the cards. So this is Strength, card number 8. Hermit. Death. This is interesting for the Devil card, pain and pleasure. Now, one thing you need to remember for the context of this deck is that Leonardo da Vinci lived during the time of the Renaissance. So this is to do with Renaissance ideas. For example, this is the number 17, which would normally be the star card, but this is called the way shower. And the Renaissance time was also the time of Rosicrucian ideas. So I think if you think about this deck, the context of the period, you really need to consider that with this deck because it has everything to do with this deck. So this is the way shower or way shower. For the moon, conception. And some of these drawings or paintings are also to do with mythology as well. So this would normally be the moon card, and this is conception. I love this card. This is renewal instead of the judgment card, judgment title. This is renewal. I probably like this card the best of the whole deck. I just love this card. And world, the Vitruvian man. So there's some of the major arcana cards, which is the macrocosm in this deck. Now, for the minor arcana, these are divided into the elements of fire, water, air and earth. So this is 2 of fire, and this one doesn't have Roman numerals like the major arcana. So these are the microcosm cards. This is 2 of fire, and there is also a keyword underneath here too, and this is direction. Six of fire is victory. And Lord of Fire. Now for the court cards, you have Page and Knight, which is the usual, but you have Lord and Lady. So you have Lady for the Queen and Lord for the King. So this is Lord of Fire. Now for water. I really like this water card. It's called Conjunction. Really like this. Now, as you might be able to tell by now, this deck is not a typical divination deck. It's not for quick answers. Caitlin Matthews mentions in the book that it was mainly designed for self-readings. I think you would have to know this deck. You'd have to be quite familiar with this deck to be able to use this to read for other people. So you can probably tell by this image as well that this is a unique deck. So it's 3 of water, conjunction. So it's not a conventional deck. 10 of water, family. Knight of water. I really like this Knight of water. He really does look like a fantasy figure. So there's something very ethereal about this Knight of water. He even seems to have an imaginary horse. Now for air, this Ace of air. So all of the aces represent the actual elements themselves. 4 of air is repose. And Lord of air. Now for the earth cards. So you have Ace of earth representing the earth element, which is stones and rocks. Six of earth is giving. And the Knight of Earth. So there is a very earthy feel to this image. So there are some of the cards to the Da Vinci Enigma Tarot by Caitlin Matthews. Here is the book again. I'll hold up the box again. It's a very interesting deck. It's quite different. I think it's for people who would like to use a deck for contemplation as well as thinking, but it's for deep thinking. It could be used for problem solving in some ways, especially with the really interesting spreads in the back of the book. But I really do see this deck for deepening and expansion of the mind rather than the usual type of divination or conventional ways of using tarot. And I think it's also for people who are quite interested in Leonardo da Vinci and his art. But for the reasons I've already mentioned, if you keep in mind the context of Leonardo da Vinci's time, the Renaissance and the Rosicrucian thought that was around at that time as well, you need to keep all of these things in mind if you are interested in getting this deck. So Enigma is really a good word, it's a good title to describe this deck. It is quite enigmatic. So I'll put some details below the video, and I find this quite an interesting deck, and I think it is worthwhile getting the deck for the reasons that I've already mentioned. And I'll put some details below the video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.